a name you probably hadn't heard until yesterday morning when Jonas Siegel put out his article, Dr. Jeremy Bettel. Now, Jonas starts the article off, and we're not going to read the whole article to you. You should read the article. He says, he starts it off with the 2015 hiring of Dr. Bettel. In hiring Bettel, Kyle Dubas said in a statement, Kyle Dubas was not even the general manager. Our sole objective is to be able to have our players know as a program we are doing everything we can in all aspects to optimize their performance and maximize their potential as a hockey player, regardless of what stage of career they're at. The 15-16 Leafs lost the second most man games to injury. Stefan Robidas, obviously 73. Remember? Robidas Island.
Yeah, I think a lot of that was manufactured. But
As in Bettel's second year in charge, they had the second fewest man games lost to injury.
Mm-hmm.
And then third fewest in the 18-19. And, to be honest, even guys like William Nylander has never missed this much time. Ever.
He didn't get hurt until this year.
In 2019, Bettel left to join the Ducks. He was replaced by Rich Rottenberg, who oversaw the Leafs performance department the next 6 seasons. It was not long after Shanahan was dismissed as president, Rottenberg became the director of performance for the Dubas-led Pittsburgh Penguins. They let him go, and they have not made replacements. Now, this story took off like wildfire yesterday. What I found very interesting is that Brad Treliving saw this, the Leafs saw this and said, we got to get out ahead of this. So what do? Instead of going on to talk about what they're going to do about the losing streak that they're on, they go on the radio to refute this entire article, which tells me...
In the middle of a 5-game losing streak.
Which tells me that they, sure, you want to defend your guys. To me, that smacks of, we got caught with our pants down.
A hit dog will holler.
Sure. And I don't actually know what that means.
I hate it because it makes me picture a dog getting hit.
Yep.
And I don't like it, but I understand what it means.
So to me, in these scenarios, because, and then, Jonas followed up with an article about Brad denying this issue, because Brad's basic argument on the air was, well, we have more than just the top guy. We've got a whole performance staff that's been here the entire time, and and they took over and blah, blah, blah. What I will point you to is the results. We have a goalie go down in early November. Coach says he'll be back within the week. He's not back for 80 days. We don't get any injury updates on even breakages of bones, which we know Scott Laughton has. One of the things that I talked to Frank Corrado about Bettel. When he was a Leaf, he worked with Bettel and with Rottenberg. And he said Bettel's main thing, which passed along to Rottenberg, was groin prep. And I found it interesting.
Hell yeah.
That, we have our best defenseman on the team go out with a neck injury, come back and immediately tear his groin. And, I know the Leafs haven't confirmed that, but they keep saying groin and it might require surgery. So what else am I to deduce?
Isn't Nylander out with a groin injury?
I thought it was, it might be groin. I thought it was ankle.
Okay. I believe it's groin.
Anyway, I wanted to get your reaction, Steve and Jesse, to what this is, because obviously there's 2 sides and then there's the truth. Where do you fall on what Jonas said versus what the Toronto Maple Leafs said?
The next time Jonas is around the Toronto Maple Leafs is going to be genuinely very funny.
Brad said he didn't see him much. He insinuated that he didn't see him much.
Jesse, Jonas is there quite often, is he not?
Did Brad say that?
There was apparently an insinuation about that. It wasn't out there. I don't think Brad is he's not a vindictive guy.
Brad's pretty tall and Jonas is short.
So
I'd like to hear that. That's crazy. Because Jonas is around the team most game days. He's always there. Yeah. As much as any other reporter who covers the Leafs, Jonas is there.
Now, if you're a total non-believer in the media,
mm-hmm.
then you might say, well, Jonas did this for the clicks, right? So
I hate that.
And the way it works is that you don't want one article to go supernova. You want every article to be consistent. That's how companies survive. So when you hear, and Brad did sort of mispronounce Bettel's name a little bit in Overdrive, and maybe they didn't work together, whatever. I've met Bettel. I'll tell you about that in a little bit.
Ooh.
But I'm just curious. So you feel, Steve, like what?
Well, I feel like we nailed it last show, and I'll get into where I think the truth is, because we talked about the Leafs kind of being cheap now, and we talked about the idea of, can Rogers own bloody everything? And then 2 articles come out after we released that show. Jonas's article, where he talks about they didn't bring back 2 very important parts of their sports science team, and it's led to a season where, I mean, Bettel is openly talking crap about his former employer, and he's explaining kind of what's going on. And also Rogers is looking to buy, it sounds like, the rest of MLSE, which would give them full 100% control of 10 Toronto sports teams, which is crazy.
A deal that's kind of been in the works since they've bought out Bell. The Tannenbaum side of MLSE has been up for purchase by Rogers till the end of this summer, and they've always had intention to do that, and they're just figuring out all the details on how to do that. There's going to be hundreds of lawyers involved.
Ed Rogers is just, if you're a StarCraft fan, he's the Zerg. If you're a Spider-Man fan, he's friggin' Venom. Like, he just envelops everything. But anyway, I don't want to get sidetracked. Listen, the article does have Bettel toot his horn a little bit, toot his own horn. But the fact remains, they cut corners here. They did. People were like, what do you mean the Leafs are cheap? They spend to the cap. The amount of money the Leafs make, spending to the cap, is very literally the least they could do. How much did they jack prices by again this year?
10% to season ticket holders.
10%
to everybody.
Beers are $20. You can't get into the building for like less than 150 or something like that. The least they should do is spend to the cap. But then there's all the extras. So I talked about how they have 5 assistant GMs. And again, people are like, how can they be cheap? They have a bloated front office. Yeah, but they're cutting corners with important stuff like this. And some of the stuff regarding them being cheap is the stuff you haven't seen yet. They're refusing to fire guys because firing guys is going to result in them having to pay people not to work for them, and then they're going to have to replace them. Well, this is maybe telegraphing the future a little bit here. Maybe they just don't. Like, I wonder if Brad Treliving gets fired, and then it's like when a team trades their captain. Maybe they just don't have a captain for a while. What if the Leafs just don't have a GM for a while? What if they just have a team of assistants? It's entirely possible.
On this point, Jesse, what do you on the Jonas versus Brad, right? And I'm sure
that's so ridiculous.
It's so funny because Jonas is not a combative guy and neither is Brad. So this is sort of hilarious. But what's your takeaway, I guess?
I think first things, Brad immediately hopping on local radio to talk about this, and then the first 3 questions were about this, and it was an extended period, and then he goes into the team losing and all that. But you know why he did this media hit with Overdrive is because he wanted to refute the story, and that panic there screams to me that something is wrong with the story, in that it's there's truth there, and they're worried about it and the narrative that's coming out of it. And I think on the Jonas side of this, what a fantastic job by him to unearth this story and talk to these guys, because that's a level of reporting you don't usually see with most guys who are covering teams like this, right? To go that extra step and to give you a behind the scenes on hey, why could this be the case in that we are seeing the Leafs more injured than they have been throughout this entire Matthews era. He's providing some sort of answers, and whether you want to say this is directly causation, like this happened and then this happened, that's up to your own interpretation of the article. But there's enough evidence there to say that there's enough evidence there to just show you that something has changed. It has not been the same as it has been pre-Keith Pelly. And there were changes made once he came in. The firing of 80 MLSE employees
This summer.
to our last year around like a couple months from now, so like less than 12 months ago.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
When Keith Pelly did the full purge at the end of last season.
Can I say something from experience? 80 probably not well-paid MLSE employees.
Well, two of them were. Ujiri and Shanahan were.
oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, those
Part of
two,
the
yeah.
Yeah. But like, because he came in and he did the Rogers thing that the three of us know because we all worked for Rogers, and they want to streamline their business. And streamlining to them is just making the little number at the bottom of the pay sheet smaller. You know, it's just making less jobs so they're not paying as many people. And you got to think some of that goes into their decision making for this team, and there's a trickle down effect. That's the only way I can interpret the changes they made, because those are true.
Yeah,
like that's not. He didn't make that part of it up. He talked to people who are in charge of these players and the medical staff. He said, those guys, the two gentlemen in the article, they said our jobs were really important. We talked to the coaching staffs. We made really important decisions. They outlined the Joffrey Lupul decision, which was, I think, great insight.
I've never 10 years we haven't known.
No, and it just illustrated the importance of these jobs, and whether Brad wants to say like, okay, the guys there are doing the same role and with different titles, that's okay, but you get still let go of a lot of people whose important jobs were to maintain the competitiveness of your hockey team, and those people aren't there anymore.
The statement at the bottom of the article is very interesting, and I know you guys will love this, because how many times have we as former employees heard this? Last March, however, Maple Leaf Sports and Entertainment, under the leadership of Keith Pelly, cut 80 jobs, and later in the spring chose not to replace Shanahan, and Masai Ujiri was fired soon after. Keith Pelly said, "We will, just like any other business, evaluate all facets of the organization in terms of how we utilize resources. We have all the resources here to be a championship team, but it's using the resources the right way." And, you know, that may even be true. But my concern, having worked under these guys, is I'm not convinced they know how to deploy said resources. I never doubted when I worked there that Rogers had money. I always doubted how it was being spent. Always.
Was it the giant murals of family members and statues, Adam? Is that what tipped you off?
No, it was the $3 million remake of the Rogers logo where they rotated it 45 degrees. Here's another one. I've met Dr. Bell.
Okay, hit me.
I met him at a social event.
Did he work on your groin?
He did not work on my groin, but Corrado did say, great with the groins. I am convinced of one thing with this man. Two things. A, that he's brilliant. B, that he knows he's brilliant. He's extraordinarily aware of his brilliance, and he loves to, in my view, from a 20-minute conversation, he is not afraid to tell you.
Did you witness him fart into an empty wine glass and then sniff it?
Not quite. I mean, it was, there was a lot of people of, that unless you get to that level, I have nothing against confidence. I will tell you that he did not ask a single question in my direction. And that's okay. If you're great, whatever. There's a bit of an ego there. What I will say is this. When I talked to a few people that are Leafs adjacent, and obviously I told you I talked to Frank Corrado.
Yeah.
Frank said, Rich Rottenberg, as much as Bettel is the one speaking, Rich Rottenberg is a real loss. And
he's the one they lost.
Yes,
right?
yeah.
Bettel's, they lost him a long time ago.
Yeah.
Rottenberg is the principal guy here.
And what do we know about Kyle Dubas?
Man, Adam, Kyle Dubas loves his guys.
And joining Spezza and Wes Clark down in Pittsburgh is Rich Rottenberg. And look at how great the very much older, even older than the Leafs, Pittsburgh Penguins are doing this year.
And the Pittsburgh
and the lack of injuries.
Who, even when they were elites, were notoriously injured.
Yes.
All the time.
Like Letang would be like, well, I missed 70 games, but I'm back for the playoffs.
Yeah.
Or like, it's the fourth or fifth time I've almost retired. I'm Chris Letang.
Malkin's out. There was like a crazy stat like in the middle of their time together where it's like Crosby and Malkin have played like 30% of their games together over the last 3 seasons or something stupid.
Yes. So as Jesse mentions, is it direct causation? That's up to interpretation, but the results are what they are.
Exactly.
And so I think that we've got a scenario here where you've got an incoming CEO, and I'll be the first one to tell you, I really had some faith in Keith Pelly. I thought this was a good hire.
You looked at the shorts in the European Golf League.
And man, I was like, man, they match his glasses. They match his glasses, though. He's not looking good right now, guys. And neither am I. And I've been wrong before, only once. But
I think you always look good.
The Keith Pelly making this decision, because it would have come to him, it's a bad one. And I think too, I mean, I know Brad is the guy that's paid to go out and make that statement. Keith's not going to talk to the media. He might not even talk to you once a year. I think it kind of sucks that we know that was not Brad's decision.
Yes. And like, I don't know, history doesn't repeat itself, but it does rhyme. Brad Treliving, this is now his second straight assistant general manager job then.
Yep.
Because he wasn't making decisions in Calgary and he's not making decisions here in Toronto. And he still hasn't made a trade in almost 200 days.
You're very fixated on the trade.
Yes, because I'm not taking my eyes off the prize here. Like, I do think the Leafs have been looking for something to galvanize them.
Mm-hmm.
And, William Nylander gets fined for the middle finger and Mikhail Sergachev doesn't. And behind the scenes, like, I know they were not pleased with that. And hey, let's talk about this. Go Leafs, go. Go Leafs, go. And it maybe distracts you for a sec from the fact that they've now lost, I think at the time it was 4 straight games. Well, then you lose 5. Okay. Jonas Siegel article comes out. Hey, that's not true. That's bullshit. Jonas and his short ass are lying. Go Leafs, go. Go Leafs, go. And then they lose 6. At the end of the day, all you have is a stagnant team you've done nothing with and a pile of losses and the second worst record in the Eastern Conference.
Yeah, because none of that's going to work at this point because the players aren't very good and the roster isn't very good and they don't have the talent to even overcome whatever deficiencies they have with motivation and getting, all gung-ho about an article. They don't have the talent to do that.
Like, how about we boil it down this far? I believe Jonas in his reporting. I wouldn't care if every word of it was wrong. You suck.
And you've got a lot of
The team sucks. The team sucks and you're not doing anything.
Anthony Petrelli this morning wrote, he's like, I don't know if there's a defenseman out there who's won a Norris Trophy only playing 11 games, but based on Chris Tanev's numbers this year, he deserves a case.
He deserves, I've tweeted similar things. Like, he should make $20 million.
Yeah.